Imagine waking up to a kingdom in chaos, where the throne itself has vanished beneath your feet. Streets once alive with bustling markets fall silent, courtiers scatter in panic, and the carefully maintained order of a centralized government collapses in an instant. This is the nightmare scenario that contrasts sharply with the stable, disciplined world of Tudor England under Henry VIII, a kingdom defined by strong monarchical authority, religious transformation, and tightly controlled political structures. For nearly 4 decades, Henry's reign shaped the very fabric of England, from the splendor of the court to the intricacies of governance and religious reform. Yet, what if all of this suddenly unraveled overnight? What would become of the laws, the alliances, the Reformation he enforced, and the delicate social hierarchies that kept nobles and commoners in line? Exploring this alternate reality not only illuminates the magnitude of Henry VIII's power but also underscores the fragile balance that kept his kingdom intact. Before chaos can strike, there must first be order, and Henry VIII built an empire of control. By the time he ascended the throne in 1509, England was emerging from the turbulence of late medieval politics, but it was Henry who transformed the kingdom into a centralized power unlike anything it had seen before. His authority extended from the grandeur of the royal court in Westminster to the furthest reaches of the shires, backed by a sophisticated system of administration that reduced the influence of fractious nobles and local magnates. Through careful political consolidation, Henry wielded unprecedented control. Dissent was swiftly suppressed, and loyalty was rewarded with titles, lands, and influence. The king's ability to manage, manipulate, and sometimes intimidate his court ensured that the monarchy remained the ultimate source of authority in England. Religious transformation was central to this consolidation of power. The dramatic break with Rome in the 1530s was not merely a theological move but a political masterstroke. By establishing the Church of England and declaring himself supreme head, Henry gained control over spiritual life, legal authority, and the immense wealth of the monasteries. This realignment shifted power away from traditional ecclesiastical authorities, placing it firmly in the hands of the crown and its loyal administrators. Religious reform also allowed Henry to enforce conformity, manipulate loyalty, and crush opposition under the guise of doctrinal righteousness. Economic foundations reinforced the Tudor monarchy's strength. Strategic taxation, careful fiscal planning, and the controversial dissolution of monasteries generated enormous wealth for the crown, funding both opulent court life and costly military campaigns. The redistribution of monastic lands to loyal nobles further cemented political alliances, binding the social elite to the king's authority. England under Henry VIII was not only politically centralized but financially fortified, a kingdom seemingly prepared to withstand both internal dissent and external threats. The machinery of this empire relied on key allies and enforcers. Figures such as Thomas Cromwell, Thomas More, in earlier years, and the loyal network of nobles and advisors acted as extensions of the king's will, implementing reforms, enforcing laws, and suppressing rebellion. Cromwell, in particular, became the architect of administrative efficiency and religious enforcement, demonstrating how a single trusted advisor could shape the trajectory of the entire nation. Yet, beneath this veneer of stability, hidden fault lines persisted. Personal rivalries simmered at court, religious tensions festered among the populace, and the financial system, while robust, was vulnerable to mismanagement or sudden shocks. These fissures, often invisible during times of prosperity, would have made the kingdom fragile in the event of a sudden crisis. By establishing this baseline of Henry VIII's reign, a kingdom of power, wealth, and influence, we can truly appreciate the magnitude of the catastrophe that would ensue if the intricate structures he built were obliterated overnight. England was strong, but even the mightiest empires carry the seeds of vulnerability within them. One misstep, one rumor, one accident, and the world Henry built could unravel in a single night. England under Henry VIII may have seemed impregnable, but even the most meticulously organized kingdoms carry hidden vulnerabilities. Imagine the sudden death of Henry VIII without a clear succession plan. Although Edward, his son, was heir, the boy was still young and inexperienced, leaving the throne susceptible to ambitious nobles and opportunistic courtiers. The absence of a strong, decisive ruler could trigger immediate power struggles, with dukes, earls, and other influential figures maneuvering to secure positions of influence or even claim the crown for themselves. Loyalty would quickly erode, replaced by suspicion, fear, and betrayal. Military uprisings could erupt almost instantaneously. Regional commanders, long kept in check by Henry's authority and wealth, might seize the moment to assert independence or exploit the chaos for personal gain. Disaffected nobles, dissatisfied with their status or resentful of central authority, could raise armies in rebellion. Local militias, lacking clear directives from the crown, might become rogue forces, turning streets into battlefields. The very structures Henry relied upon for stability, loyal retainers, garrisons, and tax-funded armies, could fracture under pressure. Religious tensions would add another combustible layer. The kingdom had only recently been torn from the authority of Rome, and while Protestant reformers gained influence, many regions and citizens remained staunchly Catholic. Without Henry's iron grip, these religious divisions could flare into open revolt. Priests and bishops might incite the faithful, while Protestant leaders struggled to maintain order. England's delicate balance of faith and governance could collapse, plunging towns and villages into violent confrontations over doctrine and allegiance. Economic collapse would likely follow. Trade networks, meticulously managed under Henry's policies, could falter as ports and markets fall under the control of competing factions. Mismanaged treasuries, sudden shortages of coin, and the disruption of agriculture and commerce could spark hunger and unrest. Peasants, already burdened by taxation and the consequences of the dissolved monasteries, might revolt, fueled by desperation and anger. Riots over bread shortages, looted markets, and banditry could quickly spread, turning once prosperous towns into scenes of chaos. Court conspiracies and personal vendettas would accelerate the kingdom's disintegration. Ambitious courtiers, long kept in check by the king's presence, might manipulate rumors, forge alliances, or even stage assassinations to advance their agendas. Families with historic grudges could exploit the turmoil, seizing lands or exacting revenge. What had been subtle, behind-the-scenes scheming would erupt into violent, visible conflict, further destabilizing a kingdom already teetering on the brink. Imagine the first 24 hours. London, normally bustling with commerce and ceremony, descends into panic. Messengers rush through the streets with conflicting orders, soldiers clash over control of key gates, and crowds gather outside the royal palace, unsure whom to obey. Noble houses shutter their doors and prepare to defend themselves. In the countryside, news of rebellion spreads like wildfire, triggering preemptive strikes and opportunistic raids. The mechanisms of law and order, once thought unassailable, falter under the weight of fear and uncertainty. Within a single day, the image of Henry VIII's strong, centralized kingdom dissolves. Stability gives way to fragility, loyalty crumbles into betrayal, and wealth teeters on the brink of ruin. The empire he spent decades constructing is suddenly a powder keg, ready to ignite with the smallest spark. This is the terrifying scenario of a kingdom collapsing overnight. A vivid reminder that even the most formidable empires rest on precarious foundations. As the bells of London tolled, it wasn't celebration, it was the sound of a kingdom crumbling. The orderly streets of the capital, once filled with merchants, courtiers, and officials performing the business of a centralized monarchy, now reverberated with confusion, fear, and opportunism. Within the walls of the royal court, panic spread like wildfire. Nobles scrambled to secure their positions, shifting alliances overnight as trusted advisors suddenly became rivals. Chambers that had once resonated with the soft hum of diplomacy now echoed with whispered betrayals, accusations, and urgent counsel. The mechanisms of government, meticulously maintained under Henry VIII's reign, faltered as those who had depended on the king's authority struggled to assert control in his absence. Beyond London, the kingdom's regions erupted in turmoil. Towns and cities, long accustomed to royal oversight and local magistrates' enforcement of law, saw armed peasants and disgruntled militia seize power. Markets emptied as fear and unrest overtook daily commerce, and minor nobles who had chafed under central authority took the opportunity to fortify their holdings and assert quasi-independent rule. In the countryside, farmers, already burdened by heavy taxation and the redistribution of monastic lands, rebelled against perceived injustices, attacking manors and raiding granaries. The very social order that had sustained Tudor England for decades teetered on the edge of collapse. Foreign powers watched England's unraveling with keen interest and opportunistic intent. France, long an adversary of the Tudors, mobilized along the Channel, weighing the possibility of territorial gains or influence over a weakened kingdom. Spain, bound by dynastic ties and wary of Protestant unrest, calculated whether intervention could safeguard its interests. Meanwhile, the Holy Roman Empire observed the chaos with concern, prepared to exploit divisions or negotiate advantageous alliances. England's sudden vulnerability transformed it overnight from a rising power into a potential chessboard for European politics. Religious upheaval compounded the crisis. The Protestant reforms instituted under Henry VIII, already fragile in parts of the kingdom, were challenged violently. Catholic loyalists, emboldened by the collapse of central authority, destroyed newly established churches and targeted Protestant leaders. In turn, reformers mobilized militias to defend their congregations, leading to skirmishes that mirrored civil war on a local scale. England, a nation recently torn from papal authority, found its faith and governance interwoven in deadly confusion, with no single force capable of restoring order. Communication breakdown accelerated the disintegration. Couriers and messengers struggled to deliver accurate information across a nation in flux. Letters carrying critical instructions were intercepted, delayed, or misinterpreted, spreading rumors that ignited further panic. Misinformation inflamed tensions between factions, while peasants, nobles, and city dwellers alike responded with fear-driven actions. The flow of knowledge, once a tool of centralized control, became a weapon of chaos, amplifying uncertainty across every corner of the kingdom. In the span of days, the Tudor dynasty's carefully maintained structure fractured. The royal heirs, young and unprepared, became pawns in a dangerous game of power. Local lords, foreign agents, and religious factions all vied for influence, leaving the monarchy's survival uncertain. Law and order, once enforced by the king's decrees and the crown's reach, dissolved into localized rule, self-interest, and opportunistic violence. England, a kingdom that had flourished under the meticulous hand of Henry VIII, now faced the terrifying reality of anarchy, a nation held together only by the tenuous threads of loyalty, fear, and hope. The immediate aftermath revealed the stark contrast between life under Tudor order and life amid chaos. Streets, courts, and villages that had operated with predictable rhythm now seethed with unpredictability. England's centralized governance, so carefully constructed, had proven shockingly fragile. The kingdom that Henry VIII had shaped with ambition, intellect, and ruthless authority now teetered on the brink of total disintegration. In the chaos, the fate of the Tudors hung by a thread, and every heartbeat mattered. The stability of England under Henry VIII was not only political and economic but deeply personal. It rested on the survival of his heirs. Edward, Mary, and Elizabeth, each a child of contrasting ambitions and religious affiliations, suddenly found themselves at the center of a perilous storm. Under normal circumstances, succession was carefully planned, with Edward groomed to inherit the throne, Mary poised as a Catholic counterbalance, and Elizabeth safeguarded for future political maneuvering. In a kingdom plunged into disorder, these plans dissolved instantly. The young King Edward, barely more than a boy, became exceptionally vulnerable. Assassination attempts, kidnappings, or coercive manipulation by ambitious nobles or foreign agents could remove him before he ever ruled. Mary, staunch in her Catholic faith, could be used as a bargaining chip by factions seeking to restore papal authority or gain favor with continental powers. Elizabeth, still in her youth, faced similar threats from those wishing to secure control over the Tudor line through exile or forced marriages. The royal children, symbols of continuity and legitimacy, became pawns in a dangerous and unpredictable game. Foreign intervention loomed as a tangible threat. France, Spain, and the Holy Roman Empire all had vested interests in the English succession. A weakened kingdom could be pressured to accept a foreign-backed ruler, marry royal heirs into strategic alliances, or even be partitioned through dynastic negotiation. The survival, or untimely death, of any Tudor heir could drastically reshape the political landscape of England and Europe alike. The consequences were profound. If Edward or Elizabeth fell, the Protestant reforms and policies instituted under Henry VIII might be reversed or abandoned entirely. If Mary were seized or manipulated, England could see a sudden return to Catholic orthodoxy, igniting further rebellion among Protestant factions. The personal fates of these children were inseparable from the national destiny. Their security dictated whether England retained continuity or descended into dynastic warfare. Ultimately, the collapse of order did more than destabilize governance. It imperiled the very line of succession. The Tudor dynasty, which had defined England's identity and policy for decades, could have ended abruptly, leaving the nation vulnerable to foreign domination, civil war, and decades of uncertainty. In this scenario, the personal vulnerability of Henry VIII's heirs mirrors the fragility of the kingdom itself. Both rest precariously on a single, tenuous thread. When kingdoms fall, faith and culture crumble alongside them. England under Henry VIII had been carefully reshaped through the English Reformation, a deliberate blend of religious, political, and economic reform that established Protestantism as a defining feature of national identity. Yet, in the wake of a sudden collapse, this transformation could unravel almost immediately. Without the stabilizing force of the monarchy, Protestant churches, schools, and institutions, the very symbols of Henry's reforms would be vulnerable to destruction, confiscation, or abandonment. Catholic loyalists, emboldened by the power vacuum, might reverse reforms, seizing churches and monasteries, reasserting traditional rights, and punishing those who resisted. The spiritual order that had once seemed permanent would dissolve into localized struggles for doctrinal control. Cultural life would suffer in parallel. England's courts had fostered the arts, humanist education, and literary achievement under royal patronage. Artists, scholars, and writers relied on the stability and resources provided by the crown. In a kingdom beset by chaos, these networks of patronage would collapse. Commissions would vanish, libraries could be destroyed or looted, and universities might shutter as funds and protection evaporated. Humanist thought, which had flourished under the relatively enlightened oversight of Henry's advisors, would struggle to survive amidst lawlessness and religious purges. England's cultural renaissance, once vibrant, could stall or regress entirely. The collapse of order would also give rise to radical sects and local religious conflicts. With no central authority to enforce uniformity, small communities could become hotbeds of doctrinal experimentation or extremist movements. Violence, persecution, and martyrdom might proliferate as rival religious groups clashed for dominance. From villages to cities, spiritual life would fracture, reflecting and amplifying the broader societal disintegration. Ultimately, these religious and cultural consequences would reshape England's identity. Where once a unified Protestant nation had emerged from Henry VIII's reforms, a kingdom in turmoil might see a resurgence of Catholic authority, a patchwork of competing sects, and a cultural stagnation born of instability. Faith and creativity, intertwined with governance, reveal how deeply the collapse of Henry's kingdom would extend beyond politics, touching every corner of society. In this scenario, England's spiritual and cultural landscape is not merely altered, it is unrecognizably transformed. While England burned from within, the eyes of Europe were fixed upon its ruins. Under Henry VIII, England had established a carefully calibrated network of alliances and rivalries across the continent. Diplomatic marriages, strategic treaties, and a reputation for military strength allowed the Tudors to project influence far beyond the British Isles. Yet, in the instant of collapse, these carefully maintained relationships would disintegrate. France, long an adversary, could seize the opportunity to invade coastal territories or exert influence over English factions. Spain, wary of Protestant expansion but eager to safeguard dynastic interests, might intervene in succession disputes or manipulate the English crown through marriage alliances. Even Scotland, historically contentious yet relatively contained under Henry's authority, could exploit the instability to press territorial claims in the north. Tudor diplomatic influence would evaporate almost overnight. Ambassadors once empowered to negotiate treaties or broker trade agreements would find themselves powerless, their instructions ignored or overtaken by local chaos. Alliances would crumble as continental powers reassessed England's reliability, while domestic factions vied for recognition from foreign courts, sometimes inviting intervention that served external agendas rather than national interests. The kingdom's voice in European affairs would be muted, replaced by speculation, opportunism, and foreign manipulation. Trade, too, would suffer catastrophic disruption. England's burgeoning markets, reliant on structured oversight, could descend into disorder. Merchants might abandon ports, shipping convoys could be attacked or seized, and overseas colonies or ambitions might be lost to rival powers. A nation that had begun asserting itself economically on the European stage would suddenly appear fractured, unreliable, and vulnerable to both piracy and political encroachment. Moreover, England's role within the Protestant networks of Europe would be compromised. Reformist states that had relied on England as a bulwark against Catholic resurgence would find themselves isolated. The collapse of authority would hinder coordination, allowing Catholic powers to regain influence and diminish Protestant leverage across the continent. The repercussions of Henry VIII's sudden absence and the kingdom's ensuing collapse would thus extend far beyond domestic chaos. England's diminished diplomatic clout, economic instability, and military vulnerability would reverberate across Europe, reshaping the continent's balance of power. A kingdom that had once projected strength and influence would become a cautionary tale of how internal fragility can invite external exploitation, leaving its neighbors poised to rewrite its destiny in real time. History is written by survivors, and in this world, England may have survived, but it would be unrecognizable. A single night of collapse under Henry VIII's reign could have set in motion centuries of turmoil, reshaping the nation and the world in profound ways. Instead of a strong, centralized Tudor England, the kingdom might have splintered into regional states, each ruled by competing nobles or foreign-backed claimants. Prolonged civil wars could have engulfed the countryside, leaving towns depopulated, trade routes unsafe, and governance fragmented for decades. The sense of national unity forged under the Tudors would be replaced by a patchwork of power struggles, where local loyalties outweighed allegiance to a distant crown. Religious life and culture, already destabilized in the immediate aftermath, would suffer long-term consequences. Protestantism, established under Henry VIII and solidified by his successors, might have been suppressed or eradicated in favor of a Catholic resurgence. Schools, universities, and artistic institutions could stagnate without royal patronage, while literary and cultural achievements that define the Elizabethan era, from Shakespeare to the flourishing of humanist thought, might never have emerged. England's spiritual and cultural identity, which became a defining force in European history, would instead reflect fragmentation, fear, and parochialism. England's global influence would also be radically altered. Exploration of the New World, colonization, and the expansion of trade networks could have been delayed or taken over by France, Spain, or Portugal. Naval dominance, which later allowed England to control sea lanes and build a global empire, might never have developed. European geopolitics, global trade, and the spread of Protestant ideas would be reshaped by an England that was weak, divided, and externally manipulated. The absence of the Elizabethan Golden Age would leave a cultural and intellectual void. Literature, theater, maritime achievements, and the arts would be diminished, while international prestige would shift to other powers better able to exploit England's decline. The butterfly effect of one night's collapse would ripple across centuries, transforming not just England, but the trajectory of the modern world. What Henry VIII built over decades, a strong, unified, and culturally vibrant nation, could have been erased in a single, cataclysmic moment, reminding us of the fragile threads upon which history itself hangs. One night of chaos could have rewritten England and the world forever. Under Henry VIII, the kingdom was a carefully balanced web of political authority, religious reform, economic power, and cultural achievement. In our history, the monarchy survived, Protestantism endured, and England emerged as a dominant European and global force. But imagine a single misstep, a sudden collapse, or the untimely death of the king. Political order would dissolve, the royal heirs would face mortal danger, and foreign powers would exploit every weakness. Religion and culture, once guided by royal patronage, could fracture into violence, stagnation, or persecution. Trade, exploration, and global influence would falter, and centuries of artistic and intellectual achievement might never have occurred. The story of Henry VIII's reign reminds us how fragile history truly is, how the fate of a nation can hinge on a single ruler, a single night, and how the world we know could have been entirely different.